4 straight weeks. The best of short course. The road to the first ever World Championship Series roars through here.
Here he comes on the inside.
They bump once more as they go back into the corner.
Rewind for second.
Cattywampus over the jump.
What a battle for the top 4. One last chance.
It's been all Keaton Swain.
It is Josh Edmondson. Connor Berry has done it.
This is the Virtual Off-Road Racing Series Pro 2 Championship.
Live tonight from the Rail City in Washoe County, Nevada, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 3 of the 2022 Virtual Off-Road Racing Series Pro 2 Championship. Tonight's coverage brought to you, as always, by our friends at Next Level Racing and Lawrence Equipment as we welcome you into the Racecraft TV booth. Alongside of myself, as always, my name is Evan Pasoko with our producer Joshua Lee alongside. And Josh kicked things off last Wednesday night with a double feature at Bark River that really didn't do a whole lot to give us a good idea of who's going to have the upper hand in the championship here this year. We enter tonight with Keaton Swain, Connor Berry, and Josh Edmondson in a 3-way gridlock for the title fight. Sounds a lot like what we saw last year.
I mean, it's a carbon copy of what we saw at the tail end of that season, and I believe in the exact same order as well. Berry first, Edmondson second, with Keaton Swain in third. But you mentioned that 2-moto format, that 2 main event format that we had last week. Very well received by these drivers, and it gave them a little bit more of an opportunity to lock in some good points early. Drivers like Christopher Plumley, Anthony Janes, Luke Canup doing that from the top 3 on back. Interesting to see now how they are going to translate that into tonight. Only one main event, only one shot to get points this week.
And it means it's going to be a really quick night here this afternoon for our one and only trip to the virtual Wild West Motorsports Park. As drivers are rounding down to the end of the qualifying session, now we take a look at some of the scenic views here in Sparks, Nevada. This is one of those visually unique tracks in the short course world, and the layout, I think, matches all of it. 2 of these turns, proper hairpins. You got 4 tabletop jumps, that massive drop off of turn number 1 in the rhythm section before 2. Listen, this thing's basically all hairpins, and it's a pretty quick lap time around here as well, around this 4-turn 1.5 mile circuit.
And you mentioned hairpins, that's exactly what this track is, but it's also very, very quick, and it creates some challenges with those hairpins of getting these Pro 2 trucks stopped. A little bit easier in the Pro 4s. They've got that 4-wheel drive to really dig themselves out of these corners, but in these Pro 2s, you got to keep up that momentum going through each of these corners, and albeit only 4 of them, only 4 opportunities to make mistakes, but they are very, very easy corners to make mistakes, especially the one we're looking at right now, turn number 1, a long jump that basically blends them right into the uphill braking zone of turn number 1 off the bottom of this start finish line. So it becomes very, very tricky to get that turn 1 exactly correct, and interesting to see how they're going to do it on these opening starts as well. We've seen 3, 4, sometimes even 5 wide diving into the opening corner here at Wild West.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's ever called it this, but I'm just going to roll with it. I think it's the coda of short course with that big run up the hill to a hairpin in turn number 1. Of course, then the rest of the lap time going to be a lot quicker than what you'd see at Circuit of the Americas, the fastest trucks in this qualifying session in the high 50-second range. As we talk about the format for tonight's race, as always, we'll start with heat races, running orders based on the single truck qualifying that is wrapping up now. Should it go as scheduled, Josh, it'll be 6 drivers transferring in from each of those heats, but there are only 5 laps. I mean, we're not going to be racing for much more than 4 minutes and change. So you talk about plenty of opportunities to make mistakes. Well, you're not going to have a lot of time to bounce back either. So track position may be very critical as we look into the heat races here this afternoon.
And talking about just exactly going into these heat races, like you mentioned, 5 laps, but also only top 6 advancing through each of them as well. You got to be on your toes, and with 12 drivers lining up only for this heat race number 1, there's not a lot of spots to go around, so these drivers are going to have to be on their toes.
And with that being said, let's head down trackside and take a look at your Lawrence Equipment starting grid for heat race number 1. And no surprise here, Josh Edmondson with the best single truck qualifying time of a 50.820 will bring us to the green flag, joined alongside by his championship rival Connor Berry in second. Felix Wall will start 3rd position tonight alongside the 56 Zachary Drapkin in 4th. They're on run number 2, with Josh Fox in 5th, and Nathan Metoxid rounds out your top 6.
And rounding out the rest of the field, the other half of this 12, it's Taylor Vandenbush with Nicholas Dashlet starting on the 4th row. Bodie Cryer and Greg Johnson are going to round out your top 10, with Scott Kerr and Cameron McKishick going to round out the full field of drivers that are getting ready to take the green flag tonight. But interesting, of course, we talk about the big 3 in this series being the drivers of Josh Edmondson, Connor Berry, and Keaton Swain. Top 3 again in qualifying for these 3, so that means that Edmondson and Berry are going to go head-to-head here in this opening heat.
Shouldn't be no surprise. We're going to watch this battle continue all through the season. It continues here, though, as we get underway for round number 3. Pace truck set sail. Field in control of Josh Edmondson. Green flag flies. We're racing in heat race number 1. Berry, though, into the outside wall. And a huge flip for the championship leader. Berry done before turn 1.
He's going to have to fight out of the LCQ now, Evan. That is the opposite of what Connor Berry wanted when he started this race. We'll grab a replay of it in a moment, but we've still got some drama closer to the mid-pack, battling around that transfer spot. Nathan Metoxin's going to take it, but Nicholas Dashlet in that 92. You can see him in a side-by-side battle with the 05 of Bodie Cryer. They fight for 7th. Is everybody single file on from there? But Josh Edmondson basically gifted the lead now and basically gifted this heat race win as Connor Berry made that mistake.
It was a huge mistake from Connor Berry, and Edmondson going to cruise to lead lap number 1. He was perfect the last time we saw him. Let's take a look at the replay. Connor Berry started this race in 2nd position, and right there he got out of shape and hit pretty much the worst spot you can on that K-rail on the front straightaway, but it was not unassisted. He made contact with Felix Watt in the air over the rolling jump just past the start-finish straight. They touched right at that moment and sent him sideways. He bounced into the fence and up and over several times. Berry is done for heat race 1. As you mentioned, he will have to go to the LCQ as you watch the drivers still in this one fight it out, but your top 6 opening up a bit of a gap over a majority of the field. Driving the hot seat right now, Nicholas Dashlet, 92, a little bit further back. These guys up front, Edmondson, Waugh, Fox, Drapkin, Vandenbush, inside of the top 5, all sitting pretty comfortable.
You can see that red line oil number 56 of Zachary Drapkin in close pursuit to the 12 of Josh Fox. That sits in front of him, and you can see him now trying to get around him. Now with only 3 laps to go, Drapkin doesn't have a lot of time to work with, but we know that number 12 of Josh Fox is always difficult to pass. The Anson Williams esports driver on the Rallycross side and one of the mainstays of the virtual off-road racing series here in the Pro 4 and 2 trucks. And he's doing a good job at holding off Zachary Drapkin at the moment, and it gets to become a very big challenge to pass, especially in these Pro 2s, Evan, once they start to spread out, because now it gets to a point where you kind of need to dive it to the inside. You kind of need to make an overly aggressive move to really make any passes happen. Either you need the driver in front of you to make a mistake, or if they're perfect, you need to send it down the inside, which, of course, in a heat race where you're fighting not only just for a grid spot in the feature, but you're also fighting to make it to the feature in general, not exactly the best move to make that high-risk, low-reward move on the racetrack.
Yeah, it's something we talk about every week, right? Is it worth it? You're in a transfer spot. If you're running in the top 6, are you happy, though, being 5th? because that's only going to translate to 9th for that main event, right? So you're going to want a little bit more. Your finishing position here does affect your starting spot for the feature, but is it worth taking a move, possibly dropping out of a transfer spot? That is the big thing to watch as always, and I think this track layout really doesn't make it easy on these guys, right? You're almost tempted with the long straights, heavy braking zone hairpins to throw it in there, but again, it's only a 4-turn circuit. So getting off of the corners is just as critical as that temptation of being hard on the brakes in, simply because if you overdrive the entry, you're going to be pretty bad off of the corner, and you can see it there, right off of the back of Edmondson. Waugh got pretty close in that yellow number 5091 truck, I should say, but then watch as he runs off the corner, watch him open that gap back up. That's the nature of racing on a hairpin like this, so I don't know if Waugh's going to be able to get up to Edmondson. He's looking pretty impressive in second, though. How about a fight for third, though? Just behind these guys, Josh Fox under fire because Zachary Drapkin putting on the pressure.
And as the checkered flag will fly, Edmondson looking for that spot. Here comes Zachary Drapkin to the inside of Josh Fox. This is going to be a drag race down the front straightaway here. Edmondson takes the win, and Fox is going to win the drag race and win the battle with Zachary Drapkin.
Able to hold him off, open up the inside. It was clean in turn number 4, and no positions are exchanged. And Josh Edmondson, perfect once more, as looking for his first race win of the season. Finished second in both of the main events at Bark River last week. Ends up on the top of the podium as we take a look at your finishing results for heat race number 1. So Edmondson, Waugh, Fox, Drapkin, Vandenbush, and Dashlet all moving on. That'll send Johnson to Bagashik, Kerr, Metoxen, and the last 2 trucks on the second page, Cryer and Barry. Notably, we're going to be watching for that 28 truck come the LCQ a little bit later on, but let's go trackside. Take a look at your starting grid. This is heat race number 2.
Keaton Swain is going to start on the pole here for the second heat race of the night. Tyson Miller will be starting to his outside with Christopher Plumley in third. Cole Ashlock will start fourth. Zachary Knowles and Lon Franks going to round out the top 6, Evan.
In the back half of the field, we'll see the likes of Cody Retzlaff, Crystal King, Paul Mikolojic. You got Mike Boodzian, Trevor Teal, and Lance Elkins. Your 12-truck grid for heat race number 2. So watch the start. We saw fireworks in the first one. What can Keaton Swain do from the front row of heat race number 2? 5 laps, top 6, advance to the feature. It is a late start as they make the run up to turn number 1. Swain clear for the race lead, but Christopher Plumley trying to get underneath for second. Plumley comes into the night 4th in the championship, wanting more.
That was an aggressive move to the inside as well from Christopher Plumley. He was able to grab that 3rd spot, but here comes more contact, and around goes the 30. And one driver goes up and over those K-rails. It looks like the 90 machine of Tyson Miller stuck with Cody Retzlaff, the 278. Crystal King involved as well. And I believe Lance Elkins might have gotten a little bit of piece of that as well towards the back end. But Keaton Swain now out in front. Christopher Plumley up to second place as Zach Knowles, Cole Ashlock, and Lon Franks are now in a heated battle. Here comes Ashlock to the inside of Zachary Knowles. And that's a beautiful move on the Canadian to take 3rd.
The Ashlock was the instigator in the contact in turn number 2, and again showing the fork truck is not afraid of getting physical. Ashlock up to 3rd, wanting some more, but now under fire because Knowles right there alongside, gonna rough him up a little bit as they race back down the hill towards turn 2. Frank's behind in 5th, but let's watch again what happened on the open lap of the race. Watch the fork truck of Ashlock. He's gonna come from way behind, get the 90, and then the 90 gets hung up on the K-rail there. Checks all those trucks up on the inside. The big winner in all of that was Plumley, who just happened to be on the outside of the corner because it's allowed him to break away, putting it clear for second. No match for race leader Keaton Swain, but the best stuff still 3rd on back as these drivers not willing to give it up, and Knowles takes another swipe in turn 4.
And this battle back here between Franks, Knowles, and Ashlock is looking like a heated battle. Nothing so far for that transfer spot. Paul Michael Ojcik still has that spot, some 2.5 seconds ahead of Trevor Teal, who currently sits in 7th. So this closest battle we're watching is going to be this battle for 3rd, and Ashlock getting that 3rd spot, had to use that bumper a little bit, but admittedly, Evan, wasn't exactly the hardest of hits. That was pretty tame when it comes to these off-road trucks. I've seen a lot lighter hits end up being an incident. I've seen a lot harder hits end up being passes for the win. So Ashlock just doing what he needed to do there, using that bumper to his advantage like you can in these short course, and unfortunately just not being able to handle it was Tyson Miller, and the 90 went around.
And it's going to be a tough break for Miller. It's going to make the LCQs really interesting because Connor Berry is already going to be in one of them, and Tyson Miller, who was the 4th fastest single truck qualifier, seems destined to be relegated to an LCQ as well because he's only 9th after recovering from that spin. 2 laps to go in heat race number 2. Still watching the trio of Knowles, Frank, and Ashlock doing battle. It's Michael Ojcik in 6th, still in the bubble position, pretty comfortable ahead of Trevor Teal. So assuming there's no big mistakes coming to the white flag, your top 6 in a very good position to lock this thing down and advance on through.
We can check in with the 177 who sits in that 6th spot, and there you can see Tyson Miller in the 90 just made more contact with that K-rail to the inside, but he is trying to be in hot pursuit of that transfer spot, but 2.5 seconds the gap. He's going to need a bit of a miracle from Michael Ojcik in that 6th spot, and as the white flag comes out, it's looking like it might be just too little too late for the 90 of Tyson Miller. He'll have to fight out of one of our LCQs, but Keaton Swain going to continue the strong momentum he took off of Bark River 1 week ago and continue it here at Wild West.
We talk about that deadlock at the top of the championship, Swain, Berry, Edmondson. That's because they all occupied the podium positions for all of those feature races. And you talk about Keaton Swain, he won the first feature, finished 3rd in the 2nd one, and is well on his way towards feature race win number 2. Dominant fashion, 3 seconds ahead of the next closest truck as Swain wins heat race 2 and locks himself into the feature. Plumley 2nd. Ashlock will hold off Knowles in a battle for 3rd and 4th. Frank's P5. Michael Ojcik in 6th. And those will be your transfers headed to the main event.
Like you mentioned, Evan Swain with that win. Plumley in 2nd. Ashlock, Knowles, Franks, and Michael Ojcik are going to be advancing into the main event. Miller, Retzlaff, Teal, Boodsian, the last 2 drivers, King and Elkins, are going to advance to one of the 2 LCQs. We've got one of them starting on deck now. Only 6 trucks, on the grid for this one.
And an update to get us to our feature race number. The top 2 will advance as we take a look at your C main starting grid. Greg Johnson, 7th in the first heat, going to get the front row on this one, alongside with Cameron Begeshik in 2nd. Scott Kerr and Nathan Batoxin on row 2, and some big names to watch behind. Bodie Cryer P5 and Connor Berry. Your round 2 race winner from Bark River is on the back row for this last chance qualifier. Same distance as what we saw in the heats, 5 laps to get the job done. All eyes are going to be on that 28 truck towards the back. But Greg Johnson in a real good position to make a feature race here in 2022. Sees the green flag fly. We're off and away, but it was a poor start for Johnson, and Begeshik to the lead. Out of control. Johnson gets into the fence, and he takes out Connor Berry again.
The 28 is stopped on the outside of turn number 1. Cryer and Kerr make some contact. Kerr is stuck on the Jersey barrier, but through turn 2 to the race lead goes Begeshik. Metoxin now getting up and into the air off the Jersey barrier as well. Greg Johnson sits in 3rd now outside of those transfer spots, but you mentioned it, Evan. Connor Berry, heartbreak again. He is going to be battling from 6th, now 5th place here in this LCQ. He is 5 seconds back from the lead, and not a lot of time to make that up.
We talk about how competitive this series is with those big three and the fact that it's not a long championship, Josh. Connor Berry cannot afford to miss the feature here tonight. You see the replay. I mentioned it was a slow start for Johnson. He's that white truck on the front row, and as he gets a little bit out of shape over the jump, right there, clips the truck in front. Nothing Connor Berry could have done, and the tough part was right here when he then got hung up on the transfer. Had to put it in reverse, straighten the truck out. He's up to P5, but he's some 4.6 seconds back from Nathan Batoxin, who's in the final transfer spot right now in the 19 truck. They're all chasing down Cameron Bagashik, but again, if you're Connor Berry, all you care about is P2, and with only 3 laps to go the next time by, I think he needs help. He needs something to happen in this lead group of 4, or I don't think he's got time to get there.
And look at how close this lead 4 is running as well. This is its own battle up here at the front of this field. Now the battle for the lead might be brewing as Greg Johnson trying to make it a battle for the transfer spot, but losing a bit of momentum there as he tries to dive to the inside of the 19. Got to the apex, couldn't get that grip down. And with the 2-wheel drive of these Pro 2 trucks makes it a bit difficult to do so. And he still is in 3rd. Connor Berry making up a bit of time, Evan, but I think I agree with you. It's going to be very, very difficult for him to get up to these transfer spots of P2 and 1. And he's going to need something to happen up here like an incident. But even then, an incident, unless it is with all 4 of these drivers, well, it won't bring out a full course caution. And if it's not to any of the drivers in the top 2, won't even help him out in terms of time to these drivers.
Last lap around, Connor Berry was 1.3 seconds faster than the next closest truck. This time by, we watched the lap intervals. Race leader Bagashik a 52.4. Berry goes 50.8. So again, a second and a half quicker, but you got to get all the way through Cryer, through Johnson, to Matoxin. It still looks like a tall task for Berry, but as you ride on board with him, he is clearly closing in. I think the only issue here is time left on the clock, because white flag will fly next time by.
Can Berry get by Bodie Cryer is his first task, and then he's going to have to try and get by Johnson, Matoxin, and McKishick on this final lap of LCQ number 1. Cameron McKishick at the front of this field. He's holding off Nathan Matoxin, who sits in that 2nd spot. Greg Johnson, who started on the pole for this LCQ, sits outside of the transfer spots. How desperate is he to make a feature race? What's he going to do on this final lap?
And there's a bit of a swipe there as he wants to get after it. Meanwhile, behind Connor Berry alongside Bodie Cryer. He gets through. So Berry back up to 4th. Slides to the inside. Puts a move on both of them. Connor Berry wheelies on top of Nathan Matoxin and somehow drives his way to P2.
What a move from the 28 of Berry, but Johnson's not done. He also wants this transfer spot as they drag race down the back straightaway. The 28 of Berry with the momentum, and what a move in turn 2 to put him into the feature.
Magashik's gonna win, but the story is Connor Berry, who fights his way to 2nd and will advance against the odds to the feature here this afternoon at Wild West. Johnson gives him a shot, but Connor Berry knew that his championship was reliant on that, and he did it. You look at your LCQ1 results, it is Cameron Bagashik and Connor Berry headed to the main event, sending to Greg Johnson, Nathan Batoxin, Bodie Cryer, and Scott Kerr back home. We take a look at the starting grid now for the final of the night, the LCQ number 2. Tyson Miller and Cody Retzlaff will be on the front row for this one, with Trevor Teal and Mike Budzian on row 2. Crystal King, Lance Elkins. Your top 6, same song and dance here, Josh. 5 laps, top 2 make the show.
What a move by Connor Berry there. He went from multiple truck lengths back past 2 at once to grab that transfer spot. I think this LCQ won't let us down either. There's a lot of hungry drivers that want to make a feature, like Crystal King, like Trevor Teal. They're taking the green flag here in LCQ 2.
They are looking for the green flag, and a big name to watch in this one is Tyson Miller. Remember, he was second best in his heat race until he got shuffled out of the way and takes well advantage of that lead position. He's already got some 6 truck lengths of a race lead down the hill into turn number 2. That'll settle Cody Retzlaff off into the bubble position. He rides in second. Some contact behind, though. That was Mike Budzian getting a little bit physical. Took a swipe at the 525. Couldn't make it stick. It's Budzian, Teal, King, your top 5, as Elkins starts to fall off at the rear.
And a poor start for Lance Elkins, but Crystal King still reeling in these front drivers as Cody Retzlaff, like you mentioned, Evan, still holding on to that transfer spot, but Tyson Miller pulling away at the front. A bit uncharacteristic to see Tyson Miller here in an LCQ as well. Missed out, of course, it's on a transfer spot from heat race number 2, so he's looking for one here. But Mike Budzian, one of the new drivers for this season, sitting in third. We don't really know how aggressive he's looking to be for this transfer spot. He's about a second back at the current moment, and about a second back from him is Trevor Teal. You look back about another second from there, you'll find Crystal King, as Teal and King look to go side by side for 4th. The 72 is going to pull over the 278 and keep that 4th spot alive, though.
And when you're in a battle like this, you really just want to be in position, and Crystal King is taunting Trevor Teal over the radio, calling his name as she chases him down in the fight for 4th and 5th position. And I think both of these trucks pretty aware of their situation, not in a transfer spot, not as quick as the trucks in the top 2, but you just need to stick around. If something happens with those trucks in the top 2, in the top 3, you want to be the next driver up on deck, and that's why the battle for 4th still important, as there goes Crystal King underneath and through. Teal not going to give up, though, all the way to the side of the racetrack now as King seals him off. Aggressive stuff, and through goes the 278 of Crystal King.
A perfect move there by Crystal King as well. Waited for Trevor Teal to make a little bit of a mistake. Teal got loose, went up to the outside of turn number 1, and there's that move done from Crystal King. It'll be 2 to go this time, and Teal still isn't done. Take a look at the defense coming out from the 278 to hold this spot off, and Teal's going to get too aggressive, spin it around going into the final corner, and Teal is going to tow his way back to the pit lane, and Lance Elkins in the back getting a little bit of a piece of that one, but it's still Cody Retzlaff, Tyson Miller at the front with 2 to go.
Yeah, Trevor Teal tried to Adam Anderson that corner, throw it in way early, and just spun it out over the berm and out of this one. So as you mentioned, Elkins assumes the next spot up in the running order, and with only 2 laps to go in this race, where is that next move going to come from? Miller sits in first, 2 seconds ahead of Cody Retzlaff, P2, who in his own right, 2 whole seconds ahead of Mike Budzian, who sits in 3rd position. It's going to take a mammoth mistake for somebody to crack those transfer spots right now as Miller lines up looking for the white flag.
And you can see this battle for that lead currently 2 seconds to Tyson Miller for Cody Retzlaff, and at this point not really looking to grab this LCQ2 win. He's just looking to survive in this transfer spot. Difficult heat races for both Retzlaff and Miller, and great to see them here in this LCQ both being successful. But you got to feel for Mike Budzian, another feature race he won't be competing in, and Crystal King as well, one of the rising stars in the Pro 4 championship, and unfortunately not getting her Pro 2 season off to the start and I know she was looking for this season.
A lot of positives to take away, but at the end of the day, you got to get to those feature races, and I think it's all going to come back to executing in the heats, right? Crystal started 8th, finished 11th in that one. You can't afford to go backwards in the heat races. Up front, though, Tyson Miller shows us that single truck speed from qualifying, dominating LCQ number 2, and Miller into the show. Qualifies for the feature race. Retzlaff pretty comfortably in 2nd, which means that Trevor Teal, Mike Budzian, Crystal King, and Lance Elkins give it the drivers who will unable to transfer, and those drivers going to be going home as they are unable to make it to the feature race here for round number 3. We'll take one opportunity to step aside. When we come back, it's time for feature racing in the desert. Will sparks fly in Sparks? We'll find out next. You're watching the Virtual Off-Road Racing Series Pro 2 Championship on Racecraft TV. Head back live from iRacing's virtual Wild West Motorsports Park in Sparks, Nevada. Welcome you back as we get set to go feature racing tonight for round number 3 of the 2022 Virtual Off-Road Racing Series Pro 2 Championship. As always, our coverage brought to you by our friends at Next Level Racing and Lawrence Equipment as we welcome you back into the booth. Evan Pasoko alongside Joshua Lee. And Josh, it's been a wild night so far. Big championship implications on the line, and we're about to settle the score.
And you mentioned those big championship implications. Would have been a little bit more if Connor Berry would have missed this feature race, but a wild move in his LCQ puts him onto the grid for this main event, albeit he's going to be down the order in 15th.
Yeah, let's take a look at the top of the order as we look at your starting grid. And Josh Edmondson, 2 runner-up finishes last week, looking for his first feature win, will bring us to the green flag alongside Keaton Swain. Felix Waugh and Chris Plumley on row 2, Josh Fox and Cole Ashlock row 3.
And back from there, Zachary Trapkin's going to be starting P7 with Zach Knowles to his outside in 8th. Taylor Vanden Bush and Lon Franks are going to share that 5th row with Nicholas Dashlet and Paul Michaelancic rounding out your top 12.
Cameron Begeshik going to be starting 13th tonight alongside Tyson Miller and Connor Berry, who has no finish worse than 3rd this season, 15th alongside Cody Retzlaff. Berry is really going to need to work hard in the first half of this 16-lap feature, get himself close to the midway point, and then try to save tonight and maximize points. But up front, Josh Edmondson looking for his first win of the season will take the green flag as we say, let's go racing at Wild West.
Everybody piles into turn number 1, and that is quite literal when we say piles into that corner. 3-4 wide and a couple of points, but as they continue to work their way through turn number 2 now, to the inside goes Drapkin, makes contact with Ashlock, contact with Knowles, and turned around exactly the opposite way, puts it in reverse, goes Zachary Drapkin, trying to keep that momentum going.
Doing everything he can to keep it on track, but Drapkin nonetheless going to fall all the way down to 16th position as again turn number 2 proves to be the point of calamity. Your top 4 get a little bit of space, contact down there. In 4 though, look at this hornet's nest of trucks backed up from 6th position on back as Ashlock and Knowles drag race to turn 1.
It's a heated battle between these two drivers. A little bit of contact there, is now trying to get himself moved into the conversation. Goes Lon Franks to the inside of Zach Knowles. Able to get that bumper in there, but not able to make any moves. Ashlock going to assume 6th place. Zach Knowles in that 099, still trying to make something happen. The Canadian trying to work on the back bumper of that number 4 machine for 6th. He'll stay in 7th as now they'll stack up to Dashlet and Vandenbush, who sit behind them, rounding out the top 10.
Vandenbush able to hang on through some of the early chaos, running pretty close to where they started, running right now in position number 10. And of course, Connor Berry trying to get through all of this, didn't have the best of starts. He's well off of some of the battles up here. Plumley, you just saw him. He's in 5th, trying to chase down kind of the 3-way battle for 2nd right now. Felix Waz got it. Keaton Swain wants it, forcing his way up the inside and side by side in the battle for 2nd spot. Swain, of course, winner of round number 1, got the 3rd step on the podium for race number 2. Gets shooken off there, though, as Felix Waugh maintains for the time being in the 91 truck.
He'll maintain, but not a whole lot of time in between these two drivers. Felix Roy only going to have about a few tenths to play with as Keaton Swain sits behind in 3rd. You see Josh Fox also catching up in the 12. He's trying to insert himself into this battle, but Connor Berry still nowhere to be found, Evan. He sits down in P14 at the current moment. It's looking grim for that big recovery drive we were hoping to see from Connor Berry as the top 2 make a little bit of contact while getting sent a little bit up the road. And here comes Keaton Swain now trying to finish the deal for 2nd.
He's got the inside to position it off of the corner, but that means down here in 2, preferred lane going to go to Felix Waugh, and just like they did last lap, Waugh is able to seal off the inside, and Keaton Swain stays in 3rd for the moment. Another dive underneath, roughs him up a little bit in 3, but that's only going to hurt himself more because Felix Waugh going to pull away down that back straightaway, and now Josh Fox in the 21 truck closes up on the back of Keaton Swain, and he'll take a peek underneath for 3rd. A little bit too much of the inside berm there, though. Shakes him loose, but Felix Waugh pulls even more on that lap as Josh Edmondson up front, a man on a mission. Nearly 2.8 seconds ahead of all of this.
Of course, Evan, we can talk about that lead gap all we want, but everybody needs to remember that typical halfway competition caution is still in effect. That'll happen on lap 8 at the end of lap number 7. So Edmondson still has to worry about that in the back of his mind. He can get as much of a lead gap as he wants at this point, but that'll just go down to mere tenths and mere feet separating the top 2 by the time that yellow flag comes out and we go back to racing. But then it's Edmondson's mission at that point to pull back away exactly like he did on the initial start of this race. And Keaton Swain still trying to work the back bumper of the number 91 in front of him, but now Swain losing a bit of time as the field spaces their way out.
Trying to spread things out a little bit as we work lap number 6 of 16 in this feature race. Quite a different margin of distance between the heats and the feature here tonight. More than triple the distance of what these drivers have been dealing with. But all things considered, I'd say it's pretty clean. Yeah, we did see Zach Drapkin get hung up a little bit. Some drivers have had struggles as Paul Mikolojic is dropped out of this race in 16th position. So some sort of issue with the 177 truck. But for all the chaos we saw, for all the flips and spills that we saw in the heats, this feature has been pretty civil for the time being. Of course, you can see the full running order left-hand side of your screen. Still Edmondson, Waugh, and Swain in the podium spots. And Chris Plumley looking for another good showing, running in 5th right now. Josh, he has finished 6th and 4th so far this year, and very comfortably sitting P4 in the championship. Is going to gain a lot on Anthony Janes because Janes not running here this afternoon.
And in this battle for this second spot. I think you can start to see a little bit of Keaton Swain starting to back off a little bit, maybe waiting for this competition caution to come out at the end of this lap. He's not going super aggressive on the 91 because I think he knows that dive into turn number 1 off the restart. Yes, it'll be a single file restart, but that still is going to be one of the best opportunities, if not the best opportunity, for the 21 to make that move for that second spot. He's going to use the competition caution to his advantage. Gets a little bit to the inside, but at the end of the corner, it'll still be Felix Waugh who sits in second. But as Edmondson crosses the line, competition caution is in effect.
So the yellow flag is out. Edmondson's 3.5 second advantage will be erased, but we mentioned off at the top, Connor Berry, somebody who really needed to take advantage of the first half of the race, Josh. This competition caution could be his friend. He's only to pick up to P12, and that's not going to be enough. I think Connor Berry is going to take a big hit in the championship here. Of course, you can see he's picked up 3 from where he started. Certainly a lot better than missing the feature altogether, and I'm sure some of the battle scars and the damage on those trucks not helping his cause, but he came into tonight tied with the likes of Swain and Edmondson in the championship, and those 2 trucks running in the top 3 while he is outside of the top 10.
And I definitely think Connor Berry might be able to make up a couple more spots on this restart, but he's definitely not going to be on the podium again, which is going to ruin the streak, like you mentioned, Evan, of top 3 finishes, and it's also going to hurt him in this points fight. Yes, he does get a drop week, but that means he needs to be perfect in the last 3 points-paying races of this 6-race season. Cannot put a foot wrong at either Crandon or Wild Horse. He needs to be absolutely perfect from here on out if he wants a shot at that championship.
And now we'll see how they negotiate this restart as they roll single file to turn 4. And look at Edmondson. He's going to go wide on the entry. He's going to try to point and shoot, get lined up. And then as they come down the hill, it is on his mark to restart this race. Puts the loud pedal down. We're back underway in this feature with 8 laps to go. Up front, Edmondson leads to 1. And if Felix Waugh or Keaton Swain want to take a crack at him, they got to do it now before he pulls away.
You can see them going forward to the inside of turn number 1, but could not get close enough to make any moves happen on your race leader. Can Swain make anything happen on Waugh? Waugh trying to get to the inside of Edmondson, couldn't do it. Here comes Swain trying to get to the inside at turn 3. He gets on 2 wheels, but still has that nose in there. It won't be enough. Fox now makes contact with Swain as he pushes himself to the inside, and it looks like another issue for Connor Berry. He's off the racetrack now, Evan.
And Connor Berry's night continues to fall apart, and he is out altogether. So what on earth happened with Connor Berry after he was caught up with an incident and went over a K-rail? Let's watch it. He was 12th, trying to pick up spots, and right here, there's a big check up in front. He straightens it up, and right here, the truck that's sideways, he goes to avoid it. He's going to get hooked on the K-rail, out of the track boundaries, sends it to the garage. Connor Berry, with rotten luck tonight, is going to take himself well out of the championship conversation in round 3 after having such a good start to the year. And that's big now for Edmondson and Swain to try to maximize the damage if they can secure these top spots. Felix Waugh, though, I'll say, Josh, very impressive in second, doing a good job of holding Keaton Swain at bay.
Yeah, an amazing run for the 91, and just the worst luck from Connor Berry. That is the absolute worst that this night could have gone for the number 28, and we'll see how he's going to bounce back from this one in 1 week's time at Wild Horse Pass and in 2 weeks' time at Crandon to round out this season, because admittedly uncharacteristic for Connor Berry to make a lot of mistakes, and I think tonight, Evan, all the incidents that took him out of the running for both his heat race and then here in the feature really just didn't come down to really mistakes made by Connor Berry. It was just mistakes made by other drivers that ended up putting him into the barriers.
It is just tough, and sometimes you get one bad bounce. He had about 3 or 4 bad bounces tonight, and Going to be a tough pill to swallow for Connor Berry, who again finished third and first in the 2 feature races from last week at Bark River. He cannot wait to get to Wild Horse Pass next Wednesday night on May the 4th and try to hit the reset button and try it again. You're on board, though, there for the minute with Keaton Swain as he chases down Felix Waugh. Again, looking very similar to what we saw at the start of this race now with 5 laps to go. It's Edmondson pulling, it's Swain challenging, but Waugh still good defense.
An amazing defense, I'd say, from the 91. He's holding back one of the top 3 drivers in the points right now, and one of the top 3 drivers in the points in the Virtual Off-Road Racing Series Pro 4 Championship from a couple of months ago. An amazing run so far from the number 91 of Felix Waugh. This will be one of his career best finishes as well in Virtual Off-Road Racing Series competition for the number 91 machine. So amazing to see as we have 5 to go, 4 to go this time by, and no real other battles on this racetrack. We can pop back to this battle between, looks like Drapkin, Fox, and Miller, a 3-way battle for 6th. Then here comes the 12, taking a peek to the inside of Drapkin, and a heavily damaged number 56 as well, still holding on to that 6th spot.
And doing a good job of maintaining position for Zachary Drapkin, who's been able to fight back from being turned the wrong way around. Josh at one point was 16th out of 16 trucks in this race, with Red Line Oil entry proving that you're able to get through traffic if you're able to fight back. We got 14 of the 16 trucks who started this race on the lead lap. Connor Berry, the only retiree, has been passed by 2 lap down truck Paul Mikolajic, which means that Berry now last in the running order. Another interesting development, and again, more points lost for Connor Berry at the very bottom of the running order. Race leaders, though, coming to 3 laps to go this time by. A couple of close fights. I mean, you know, Fox and Miller, maybe McGashik and Dashlet, but certainly not Edmondson. He is well out and cleared out, 1.3 seconds over the ongoing fight for second. And at this point, Edmondson just needs to lock in, and he can use that gap to his advantage by backing it off in some of those higher risk corners. You don't need to get too close to the K-rail. Don't worry about getting up on the berms. Just make sure your truck settles good off of the jumps. You point it straight and use the gap to your advantage here to limit mistakes.
And we saw Edmondson finish 2nd in both of the main events at Bark River 1 week ago. This is going to be much better than 2nd place. He mentioned in his post-race interview those were still great finishes to start the season, but he really wanted those wins. And it looks like at this point, it's going to be all Josh Edmondson at the front. But I wouldn't count out Felix Waugh just yet. He's still in a battle with Keaton Swain, still trying to hold off the 21. He's also just keeping up, and maybe even on some laps gaining a little bit of time to Josh Edmondson up in front. Last time by, only 2/10 separated the top 2 drivers, as here comes Swain with a peek to the outside going into turn 2. He'll sit right back behind the 91, but you can see he's getting antsy, and he goes to the inside in 2 to try and make the move.
And this is the part of the racetrack where you want to make the move into 3 and then to 4. Swain trying his best to get underneath Felix Waugh to keep a nose, but Waugh shakes him off. And the issue is where we've seen Keaton Swain to get the track position as we come to the 1 to go, Josh, has been out of turn number 1. But the problem is that's a lefty to a righty, right here. 2 left turns in a row consecutively, and he's on the inside. White flag, 1 lap to go. Can Keaton Swain finally get the pass done?
He'll have the inside advantage into turn number 1. What can Felix Waugh do on that outside line? Into the blue groove goes the 21, but he'll get that momentum off the corner, pushes Waugh right into the flags at the exit of pit road, but Keaton Swain is going to grab that 2nd spot. A beautiful move off of turn number 1, and Swain on a last lap pass is looking to get to the middle step of the podium. Still nothing to scoff at for the 91, Evan, but I know he's going to be wondering what if for that 2nd place, but it's all Josh Edmondson looking to celebrate at the top.
And Swain looking to cash in 48 points, but bested only by the 50 that await Josh Edmondson. Final time off of 4. Josh Edmondson wins the feature at Wild West and takes the championship lead halfway through this 2022 Virtual Off-Road Racing Series Pro 2 Championship.
And what a win. It is for Josh Edmondson. I mentioned we heard from him in his post-race interview at Park River how he wanted those wins. He was gutted by the 2 second places, and he got them tonight in a beautifully crafted race in the main event, leading every single lap, qualified on the pole, winning his heat, winning the main event. That's a perfect hat trick for the 58 tonight.
It is the Grand Slam for Josh Edmondson, and after a couple of runner-up finishes last week ago, he is your winner tonight in the Silver State. As we take a look at your full race results, Edmondson's final margin of victory, 1.9 seconds over Keaton Swain and Felix Waugh on the podium. So a couple of new names mixing in there with Knowles at a fourth and Christopher Plumley likely defending a fourth in the championship, and maybe even jumping up to third with his top 5 finish. Drapkin, Ashlock, Van Bush, Retzlaff, and Franks, your top 10.
And back from there, rounding out the 16 drivers that took the green flag: Tyson Miller, Nicholas Dashalette, Cameron McKishick, Josh Fox, and the 2 drivers finishing in the pits tonight. Paul Mikulanchik, unfortunately, in that 177, making his series debut, and Connor Berry, a 16th place finish in the main event. Definitely not going to help him when it comes to the point standings. He still has that drop week, but like we mentioned, Evan, now can't make any mistakes in the last 3 rounds of this campaign.
It is a big hit for him because that safety net is gone, and in the live championship, he'll fall behind. And now, again, no mulligans left. We saw drivers last year with the championship, Josh, able to shake off a P7, shake off a P5. Well, now that you burned it, you're going to have to be picture perfect for the next 3 weeks. The driver who was, though, picture perfect tonight is Josh Edmondson. As we go trackside with tonight's feature race winner from iRacing's virtual Wild West Motorsports Park. Josh, congratulations on the win. I know you were happy with the points you got out of Park River, but those P2s stung a little bit because you knew you had speed to get race wins here in the Pro 2s, and you were absolutely on the money tonight. Congratulations.
Definitely had a little bit of a. I mean, it wasn't bad last week, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. I wanted to be on top. So did some work this week with Connor and the other guys on the team, and found some speed and was able to come out and qualify up front, which was huge. These guys are all so close in pace that starting position, track position was everything. And then Felix and Keaton had a awesome battle behind me that let me get a little breathing room and just run my laps. So yeah, it worked out really good.
One and done at Wild West here this season. This racetrack very unique compared to some of the other ones we'll go to, right? You can't really draw many comparisons with the big uphill, downhill sections, but only 4 turns, right? Basically, this is the hairpin circuit. We're getting into the corner and then really firing off is key. I know you mentioned track position big for you. What were some of the track-specific things you worked on over the course of the week to be so good?
Yeah, it was all about getting as close as you can to those K-rails on the inside. It's where the speed comes, is maximizing the apexes there without bumping them. So that was something I worked on a lot, and with the setup with the truck a little bit too. Been trying to find some things. A lot of our focus has been going into the Pro 4 for this upcoming World Championship, so it was good to actually spend some time and work on this truck a little bit, and it paid off for sure.
Keaton Swain hot on your heels, getting his first second place finish of the year. He now has a 1, 2, and 3 to his name. You should have the lead in the championship as we head to Wild Horse, but you mentioned Connor Berry, somebody who you practiced with earlier this week. He had a rough night, barely got into the feature, got wrecked out of it, finished in 16th position. Not that you want anybody else to struggle, but when we're talking about a guy like Connor who comes into this as the reigning Pro 4 championship winner from last fall, you know he's good in the Pro 2s as well. For him to have a mistake and for you to still keep the streak of top 2s alive, does it give you some sort of extra confidence?
A little bit, yeah. For the championship, that's a little extra room I have, I suppose, over him. But like you said, Keaton's still right there. That was cool to come into this race tied with those guys again. But it's definitely better to have the points lead by myself. And even though it's only 2 points over Keaton, it's still good. You know, hopefully I can finish in the top 2 the next couple rounds and stay up there and hopefully win one of these titles. It'd be good.
Looking forward to seeing it as the road towards that championship continues. But tonight as the race winner at Wild West, anybody want to say hi to?
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out you guys putting on the broadcast. Looking forward to going back and watch it. And then everybody on the team, Tim Beaver Esports, and my new title sponsor, Next Level Racing, got the new wrap on the truck again. Looked real good tonight, and I think that's maybe partially where the speed came from. And also General Tire, Vision Wheels, and Dirtfish.
These are the people behind the scenes to make it happen for tonight's race winner, Josh Edmondson. Josh, again, congratulations on the win, and good luck next week. We are halfway through this Pro 2 championship, and Josh Edmondson is on top of the mountain. Josh leading this title fight, but the driver hot on his heels in the points and on track tonight was Keaton Swain. He comes home second, and you're with him.
Wins in the mains last week and a second place here for you, Keaton. Does this one sting a little bit, or do you feel a little bit better about the second place with that heated battle you had with Felix in the 91?
It stings a little bit. I would have liked to had a shot at Josh there, but me and Felix had a good battle pretty much the whole race. Obviously it's really hard to pass, and I was trying to make it clean, and kind of didn't mean to get onto him and send him off the track there, but kind of had to do what I had to do there to get second to keep it close with Josh. So overall it was a good race. Congrats to Josh and Felix there for the podiums, and I can't complain because this is definitely not my best track. So to come out with a second, pretty happy about that.
Mentioning how hard it was to pass is working your way through this main event. Were you banking on that competition yellow that is, of course, in all of our races here in the virtual off-road racing series to just kind of give you a little bit of a boost to get around the 91?
Yeah, well, obviously I didn't get the best of starts there, and after I got behind Felix, I wanted to try and get around him before the competition yellow so I could try and run down Josh, but fortunately I couldn't get around Felix. So after the competition yellow, my next plan was just to get around Felix and kind of settle in for second, because that's all I was able to do there. But obviously would have liked to win, but we go next week to a little bit better track for me, so looking forward to that.
And mentioning that race next week, Wild Horse Pass, are you confident that you can make up a little bit more points to the drivers in front at Wild Horse Pass?
Yeah, I think it'll be another good battle. Obviously, Connor had a bad night, so points-wise, it's kind of just me, Josh, and a couple other guys that are somewhat close. But it's all going to be about qualifying. You can qualify up front. It's a lot easier to stay up front. So we'll just have to qualify good and hopefully can come away with a win.
Thanks for joining us again, Keaton. Congratulations on your podium finish tonight in second place.
Thank you.
Great to hear from Keaton Swain Evan in that 21 machine, finishing on the podium once again, but the driver who almost denied him of that second place is now standing by with you.
That's right, we're trackside with the driver of the number 91 truck. And Felix, congratulations on a good run. Held on to second for so long before Keaton passed you at the end. Just tell us about that fight.
Oh yeah, that fight was really good. I really thought I was gonna get second there, and I know Keaton went for it, and it was a good pass. And I was just trying to get a podium every week, and we'll be at the front in the championship too.
It's a good strategy for these things to work out. I mean, feels like we just started. We did already through 3 of the 6 rounds on this championship. How would you assess your performance so far? You're going to leave tonight, I believe, 5th in the title fight. You happy with that?
Yeah, would have liked top 3, but I guess I had a bad week last week at the second race. I didn't even finish. I got in a wreck, so yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, we'll just try and get the podium streak like in the iRacing short course series. And yeah, just like to thank my sponsor, man, Case Royale. Like to thank my team, Josh, for a good setup, and Connor just had a really bad night. He will get strong next week, I'm sure about it.
Well, we wish you the best of luck as the West Coast swing of this Pro 2 Championship continues next week in Chandler, Arizona at the Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park. But until then, Felix, thanks for sticking around, and again, congrats on a good finish.
Thank you guys, and appreciate you guys are broadcasting that.
Your third place finisher tonight at Wild West, Felix Waugh, comes home on the podium and improves to 5th in the championship as we are halfway home, Josh, just like that. Feature race wins to Keaton Swain, Connor Berry, and Josh Edmondson, like the big three, if you will, still showing out in full force. And as mentioned, our one trip to Wild Horse coming up next Wednesday.
And it's going to be a real curveball because it is one of the tracks. I think Bark River's the most unique, but I think Wild Horse Pass, before we had that track, was the most unique. It is very, very short, not a lot of straightaway speed. It's another one of those courses where you gotta tackle those turns, and I think tonight Josh Edmondson showed that he could. Can he do it again?
That's going to be the question. 3 races, 3 different feature race winners. The only way to find out what happens next is to join us next week. But until then, that is it for us here tonight from the Nevada desert. So on behalf of our entire team at Racecraft TV, for the folks at the Virtual Off-Road Racing Series, and our sponsors, Next Level Racing and Lawrence Equipment, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Josh Edmondson on his first feature race win of 2022. The road towards the championship continues next Wednesday, May the 4th, from iRacing's virtual Wild Horse Pass. That race and every race of the 2022 Virtual Off-Road Racing Series Pro 2 Championship can be found exclusively here on Racecraft TV. Till next time, good night from the Silver State, where Josh Edmondson takes the lead in the championship.